Björn Negelmann zu Gast.
Björn Negelmann is our guest today. It was easy for us to invite you because we said if you invite you, there's a whole pool in one person, a pool of experts, 20 experts, because you have such knowledge in customer journey and customer experience. Shift CX, I think you'll have to explain what that is in a moment. It's a great conference that you organize. I've been a guest there too, and they're always outstanding guests and speakers, and this is why you are really close to the current trends in the field of customer experience. You prepared a short presentation. Let us start with your presentation, and then we can start our discussion. We want to find out and point out what is important regarding the content during the customer journey. Thank you very much for inviting me and for giving me the floor. I feel honored. I hope that I can live up to the expectations and the praise you already gave before I even started speaking. Usually I'm the person asking the questions, or I'm one of the panelists. I discuss with experts like Saim and others during our events. And of course, on our team, we also reflect what we've heard and we write it down and we write blogs about it. And this is why I'm truly delighted to share my perspective on things with you. Although I'm usually an observer, that is my role, putting things in theoretical aspects, and I'm also adding, but I'm more responsible for the more theoretical part. So much at the outset. My name is Björn Negelmann. I'm part of Kongress Media. Saim has mentioned it already. We organize events. Until the pandemic, it was in-person events. During the pandemic, and because of the pandemic, we had to change our business model. We only organize online events these days. That works quite well. There are other challenges. We need to deal with content. This is our topic today, content along the customer journey. This is the specific topic we want to speak about today. In event marketing and announcement, this plays a role. We carry out events on different topics. We have digitalized our different platforms. We have different platforms. Shift CX is one of the platforms, topic related, that is about the customer experience. And I have thought about this topic also when talking to Saim in the run-up to this meetup. What is changing? We are in a transition period, in a period of major change. There is the big gray elephant standing in the room with two letters, AI or KI in German, if you want to take the German acronym. And it seems to be putting everything upside down. I've known Saim for a long time because he has a lot of editorial experience. He supports companies on their path to the world of technology. And he passed from the consultant side to the technology provider side. And people usually promise a lot, and Saim always can promise things perfectly. And he does that very well. But around the technologies, there are many different promises that are made that we need to confront. That's one point. On the other hand, there are expectations regarding the technology, and there's a change process underway out there. And this brings about changes on the part of the customers, the end users, us human beings who deal with companies. Of course, changes are taking place, and this is what we want to talk about today. Why is good content no longer a nice to have? This is my starting point I want to make and I want to elaborate upon. Basically, we all know that the importance of content in the customer journey is nothing new. All those who participate in that and have been in touch with AX Semantics or the topic of the digital world, they know that content along the customer journey is a very important building block to convince, to be found in the first place, to convince. And then after convincing, there needs to be the conviction and then the follow-up. So there is the whole funnel of the customer journey. We are talking about all this awareness, engagement, conversion, and retention. And content has many different functions in that, and it provides support so as to take us one step further in this funnel. This is nothing new, but there are new challenges that we see. And one of the challenges is that because of the pandemic, but also prior to that, there was a huge amount of content, a mass of content that was produced and put online, where we want to raise awareness, when we want to be found, we want to stick out. So the question is, how can we call this attention with smooth content, shallow content? No, of course, we want to offer something exciting, something of high quality. And this calls attention, and people spread this news. You can be recommended, and you can have access to new stakeholders, and you will be listed at interesting ranks in the search engines because you have cross-links for certain keywords that are popular. So content, once more, is related to this massive content that there is. And during the pandemic, all the companies became more digital. Now more content is being produced, and this is why it's even more important. And we also have to meet the people where they are regarding certain questions, because we want our customers, we want the stakeholders, maybe there will be customers in a second step, we want all those who are interested to find what they're looking for, to find their way. We used to speak of the relevant set where the customers needed to get to. This is the decision-making process, which is of the customers, which is important, but now we go above and beyond that. The customer today is much better informed than ever before. The customer wants to understand what our individual products can deliver. What is the advantage of one pair of shoe over another, or this piece of clothing? So there are many pieces of information that people want to have, and we need to satisfy this need. And of course, we need to do that with content. And then this decision-making process is no longer that straight. Maybe you know that from yourself. You have many ideas about things that you might need, that you need to buy, that you could need. And then at times we hesitate. And we find something different that attracts our attention. Even in B2B decisions, just because a certain machine is needed, and it's clear that there are different manufacturers that could deliver this machine, that doesn't mean that a decision is made right away. There is a back and forth discussion about can we pay for that? Can we allow us to buy it? Can we afford it? And there is this messy middle situation where it's back and forth. No clear decision is made right away, but impulses are needed because we want to maintain the contact with these interested parties, and content is all the more important in that. And then there is the after-purchase process. We want to keep the customer happy, and it's really bad if the vacuum cleaner doesn't deliver because it was wrongly used. The vacuum cleaner is just an example here that I chose at random. You can take whatever product you want. And then, well, if we have a happy customer, we want the customer to recommend us. And this is also related to content. So content has always been important, but now it's more important than ever before. This is the conclusion for me, particularly when dealing with the topic that there are more purchasing decision-making processes than ever before in our private and also in our business-related sphere. And this is the reason why content has become more important, even than it used to be anyway. So let's move on. This is the customer journey we want to touch upon. I could have mentioned another chart, but I didn't. Customer journey is something we discuss, is the journey the customer embarks upon. There is this conventional funnel model, but then there are different touch points that are also included. The customer uses them to retrieve information, to get background knowledge. Maybe the customer wants to try out things. And this customer journey is the central planning tool, also assessment tool. And it's become more important to use this tool. In the past, we had that funnel logic from the very beginning to the very end, and we will have our gold nuggets at the end, but now we've got the messy middle in the middle, and then we've got the situation that we don't only use one channel as persons, but we have different touch points. This means the journey is very different. There are different contact points people go through. But our supreme goal is to bring about customer satisfaction along the journey, because this customer satisfaction will lead to us potentially selling something. This is why the customer journey is the foundation, is a tool that we need to have in our toolbox, and we need to bear in mind. Now we move on, and this brings me to the slide now. Why is the customer journey and working with customer journeys, which is nothing new, but why is it more important than it's been ever before? I've already mentioned various points. COVID, we all became more digital during the pandemic. Let me put it differently. Because of the pandemic, we started using different touch points. There's one customer journey, but it's not linear. It has multiple perspectives, and we are living in an era of crises. And on the one hand, there is a huge expectation regarding the satisfaction of our expectations. We have high quality demands, but at the same time, we are very price sensitive, and we see that there is a higher price sensitivity. There are different consumer studies showing that there is a divided field of consumers. There are those who don't care about the price at all, and then there are those who consider the price to be very important, and they need to watch well what they spend their money for. But both groups want to have a good user experience. They want their expectations to be fulfilled. They don't want to make any concessions regarding quality. And for businesses, it's difficult to identify where we are, how can we deal with that, what is the situation, and how can we satisfy the needs in a dual track approach, so to speak. Okay, how can we deal with that? And then the customers are very well informed. So are our new customer groups. We can't just spread any advertising message because they are all very smart. They have a lot of background knowledge and they know how to get this background knowledge. And then there are technological developments. And we know about the potential of AI. And so we have different digital expectations. We want to interact with the systems verbally. We want to be in touch with the contact points of the customers. So there are many different customer expectations. So we human beings have high-flying expectations regarding the contact we want to have with businesses. And these expectations are undergoing a constant change. The only constant factor we see is that this different way in which we interact with businesses, this is something that we can observe at the customer journey. And this is the point I want to make. The customer journey and working with the customer journey is more important than ever before. We also see that in our events, our discussions, we see that in all the projects, the customer journey is something we always focus on in our discussions, be it in service, in marketing, in communication. The customer journey is always there to be used to come up with the different aspects. And this also goes for content. Let's get back to the content. So what does that mean for content? The customers have high expectations that we need to provide. Be it engagement content, content marketing, on social media, the product descriptions on the product pages. The content we provide needs to meet the expectations so that we can bring about satisfaction in the customer journey, so that we can score. And the language needs to fit the stakeholder groups, the target groups. We cannot use German product descriptions in international shops. No, we have to provide specific tailor-made content. And we cannot just publish whatever bullshit content. Be asterisk, asterisk, asterisk content. To not use the word. We have to be specific in the information we provide. We cannot just provide random content regarding our products. On the other hand, the content needs to be very relevant to meet the expectations. And this is where complexity comes in. We are not talking about one customer journey, but the customer journey exists for stakeholder groups A, B, and C. And we even have different personalities in the different groups going through different customer journeys. And in every stage of the journey, This person might view content differently. Content has different degree of importance, and they need different information and different content. And this is why complexity comes in. There are different individuals, different situations, different contexts, different points in time. All this gives rise to more complexity to meet these expectations. So we have to reach this high degree of relevance, and at the same time, this means for content production, and this brings me to the second to last slide already. We have a lot of different content that we want to produce, which is very topical, very relevant, all the way down to the segment of one that would be the personalization to the individual. This is something we can do. We can customize the content to the expectation of the individual or the individual group. And then the question is, how can we do that very efficiently? How can we do that with machine support? There are routines, but everything we want to scale regarding content with a machine, with a computer, it needs to be of high quality, because otherwise we will not be relevant, we will not create the experience, we will not satisfy, and we might even make people go away. And what might happen is that the customers end up disappointed. And we need different playout formats regarding content, formal matters, technology. We need to be able to deliver to different systems. And of course, today content isn't only text, mustn't only be text, but it needs to be video more and more for the search engines. But text is also needed for the video content to be used in a way that it can be analyzed, etc. So we always need the two directions. We need audiovisual content, we need text, so that the content can be spread. This is why I need the text. So we have to follow this double approach. At the end of the day, governance of the processes and of the output has gained a lot in importance. So customer journey, the customer journey as a tool, as an abstract tool we can work with, is important as a mental anchor. But we don't produce the content ourselves anymore. We need to understand the importance of these points and need to implement and manage this process in a smart way and monitor it. And the content experience is the be-all and end-all, and we have to make sure that all the processes, computer-based processes, that we create relevance and quality, that our content is relevant and doesn't fall into oblivion because it's not useful for anybody except for a search engine. But that wouldn't work either, because if it's a non-important content, the search engine will not consider it important either. So this is the overarching picture, and I say that the customer journey is important, content is important, and we have to rethink it, we have to put it all together again. And this brings us back to the technology promise, because there's this one great solution, ChatGPT. And I have a lot of euphoria for AI and ChatGPT for all these approaches. And I can produce cool content at an individual basis. I use it quite a lot, not for presentations, but for creative content elaboration. I use ChatGPT as an editorial assistant, but it is a very individual process. Of course, if you had the right systems, you could automate it. But this brings us to the point that the linguistic models that we can use to derive solutions, we can produce good solutions, but we need to monitor and double check if what is written there is accurate. And this governance process is really crucial. And now we have to think about the right process. Allow we ChatGPT to generate freely and control afterwards, or do we control the content before it is drawn up so that we don't have to revise afterwards? This is a lot of waiting. There is not one solution. And it also depends on what you want. What content do you want to produce at what point of the customer journey? And depending on the point, you need to follow different approaches. I need creative content. I want to produce the engagement content or creative content, which is unique. Then it's a one-off creation process. I can have a very individual approach. I can have ChatGPT support me to find new solutions I didn't think of. So ChatGPT can provide support. And if I have homogeneous content, massive content I want to produce, there are interfaces with different systems, but I need to keep an eye on my governance process. And this brings us back to the initial question. Content and customer journey. How important is good content in the customer journey? Yes, it is very important. It's more important than ever before because the customer journey as an approach to customer marketing, customer communication needs to be the central anchor point. Can we automate it? We can partially automate it. We can use it as a support. We can have technological AI solutions as an approach, but we also have to control it. And this is why I say no, yes, and no because, but. I say no to ChatGPT being the simple solution because, but we need technological and smart approaches for solutions so as to embark on that scaled content path. This is why I'm saying but. So this has been my impulse, my input, and I'm looking forward to the discussion with you. With you all, dear Saim, just as a commercial, if you're interested in the customer journey, feel invited to participate at our online conference on the 8th and 9th of November. Shift CX, that's the platform you need to access. This is where you can participate and register. We will share this link in our newsletter. We'll be pleased to do that if you give us the link. Thank you very much, Björn, for that information, and thank you very much for your input. I would like to start by speaking about the customer perspective. And I liked how you formulated it. The post-pandemic phase, the PPP, the post-pandemic phase, it's another acronym, I like it. And suddenly you have a price sensitivity against the backdrop of the economic situation and the global developments. This did not exist before. And I read an article of a sports item manufacturer that they sell surfing equipment. And for the first time, every time, let's say a product has a higher price and the price goes down for the neoprene wetsuits, and they formulate a new tax tailor-made to the material, the fabric of these wetsuits, sealed seams, the quality of the zipper, you name it. And then in the product descriptions, they make a qualitative assessment by saying that this is a product that with its features meets highest expectations and is a real bargain given the price it is sold for, just as an example. And then when prices are adapted, this is also adapted. So you can't use the bargain as an argument if you still sell at a high price. No, but some months later, the prices go down, and then you can say, we sell it at a bargain. And before, maybe you wanted to focus on that it's a new product, a new collection, a new assortment for 2024, and then there you add the price information. Let me just give you that example. If you look back at your latest conference rounds where you worked as a moderator, was there an example that impressed you? What did they do content-wise? We're not talking about content. I'm just very open. Where would you say, what example was there that amazed you, although you have many years of experience on the stages of the world? Well, you mentioned content, but I'd speak about the customer journey. We started there, and many customers do that. But for me, Ionos team, Laura Fritz and colleagues, they enter into a feedback loop. They say we observe our customers through transactional feedback sessions, and we use the information we get, bring it into the organization, and then we make adjustments. And this is a permanent adaptation process. The one you just described when you spoke about the surfing example. At least the goals are adapted. I can't say anything about whether or not this company adapts their product pages and their supply, but they are constantly reflecting upon change. And this is the starting point where I say this is what it takes as a basis. We don't need to speak about adjustments if we don't have the latest insights about what these stakeholders expect from us. And then what do I do with these insights, findings? And there are content marketing events we also carry out. And they use this knowledge about the fact that customers are different, and they use it. There are e-horses, and there's a e-horses and e-dogs platform, for instance. And they are platforms that they act like brokers for animal feed. And they work a lot with automated search engine analysis. They use the keywords and produce content so as to appear at the top of the funnel with the content pieces that they could place as added value content. This is just about generating traffic. That's what they want. And then there are other examples. in the decision-making process. For instance, the savings banks finance portal, they have an internal finance group that enables the savings banks to proceed. They have extended content along the decision-making funnel, and they support with funding tools. So they have many different points, many different pieces of content, but this is rather a quality content added that adds value, that adds information to the decision-making process. So it's a different approach. Your example goes beyond that with the surfing equipment provider. They use prices, the price levels to adapt the information. I find that even more interesting. Great. I mean, what matters is the exchange. You give an example, and I've heard 2 or 3 names. You said something that I thought was very important. The continuous adaptation, reflection, addressing the changing customer needs. This is not a process that I start today and it ends in 2 or 3 days. And technology makes this possible. This brings us back to your chart. We have development on the one hand, and we see developments that enable us to react faster to the trends. On the other hand, we have customers who expect us and demand from us to adapt to this new content faster and to react to the content faster. And you mentioned one buzzword during your presentation, and you just mentioned it again, that is governance. The control, the management of my activities regarding success or success monitoring. And of course, you're triggering me when you say that. What makes good content be high quality content? We don't need to engage in philosophy about that today. That would go beyond the scope of this meetup, but governance in content. From your experience, I can tell you from my experience that we have a tool that I can use to measure how the interaction with the content happens. People open the page, they access the page. No, there's more. I can see the dropout rate. What did the customer read within the customer journey when consuming the content? But if we want to apply that to the number of customers using this actively, this is a rather small number. A small number of people really take this as a basis for theses to further develop my content. Do you think that this happens everywhere in the customer journey? Or from your decades of practice in the field of customer journey, how far along are we when it comes to the self-monitoring? So you're praising me again, decades of experience. Well, it's more than 20 years. Well, the companies are embarking on a transformational journey. And we have to accept that we need to be able to understand it first. And there are those companies that have staff who have more knowledge in this field or think that data-oriented work is needed and helpful. They retrieve data feedback. I'm not talking about real time, but it's assessed fast, and then they can plan new activities. So the traditional digital work, that's what I'm talking about. We have data, we can derive hypotheses from the data, and then we can try to develop a minimum viable product. And we test it out with the feedback data from the tests we carried out. It's validated or not. This is a hypothesis-based work. And this is the data-oriented way of approaching things. This is there already, but it's not being done at large scale. And we are data-oriented, but we are not hypothesis data-oriented. We don't use it to act accordingly to use it. We don't use it as an orientation large scale. A big organization that's like a big vessel, a big ship with many people with different attitudes and different directions. It's a process, it's work in progress. And the customer journey and working with customer journeys is also changing. At the beginning, the customer journey was a design planning tool. We do a customer journey map to understand what touch points we have. And this is also changing. The discussion is changing on that. So basically, this is our control tool, our management tool we can use to derive our next steps. And there's a lot of change in this field too, and there are companies that are faster and others act more slowly. But the target is there, the direction is there. And in the digital sphere, we will need to use data, valid data, to plan our activities. And technology helps here. And I see that AI, like ChatGPT, we don't use it to engineer content, but the OpenAI language model, do we use it as text analysis tools we can make use of to retrieve factors that give us information about the content, which we can use. I mean, there are huge possibilities to develop in this field too. Saim, you are muted. I just grabbed the microphone. I'd like to mention something specific. Hello also to the LinkedIn audience, because we just had a comment by him, by a participant. Oftentimes, things are sent back saying too small, too big. Can the product text react and be adapted in an automated way? For instance, that a product is too small or too big. This is a specific example. So as to react to content. Very often, if there's a certain return rate that is, I can, for instance, express the recommendation to buy this product smaller or bigger. This brings us back to evaluating customer feedback. At the end of the day, what we have to do is to engage in a continuous improvement process. This is the agile approach as well. That is praised time and time again when speaking about where the products need to develop towards. You have to be more agile, people tell us time and time again. And what is this about? We need to be able to react faster to changes. And this starts with us knowing what the changes are. That's the beginning. And we have to be able to derive our measures from that. And getting back to my input, the customer journey is the central tool we need to focus on. Everything will be measured against this. Content is an important building block. Along this customer journey, with many different facets. And there is not the single content. There are many different contents. And in content production, this leads to a high degree of complexity if we want to implement this. And we need to find the right solutions. I would like to mention the organizational perspective. I think it's really complex.
herzuleiten, wie die Customer Journey ist, weil das ist ja interdisziplinär, denke ich mal.
To understand the
Das
customer
heißt, man
journey
muss da ja
because it's
irgendeinen Mechanismus und
interdisciplinary,
Methodik finden,
I
um
think. So I
die
need
Customer
to come
Journey
up with
ständig
a
auch im Blick zu haben
methodology
und die entsprechenden
to keep an
Dinge
eye on the
abzuleiten.
customer journey
Naja,
and
ich
to
glaube, dass
derive
die
the
Idee,
right
die der Björn
methods.
vermittelt mit seinem kontinuierlichen Verbesserungsprozess
I
ja auch
think
schon
that
zeigt, und
the
das verfremdet mich eigentlich auch, wenn der
idea
Blick zurückblickt,
Björn
ne?
conveys with
Customer
the
Journey war
continuous
halt ein Tool,
improvement process,
ein
that makes me
Design-Werkzeug,
happy
um einen
because
Prozess zu designen oder den
customer journey was a
Kunden
design tool
Erfahrung
to design a
abzubilden. Und
process
heute ist es viel, viel stärker
or
und
to
das ist
depict the
tatsächlich so
customer
eine stetige Weiterentwicklung, agiler
experience.
Prozess, Lernen aus den Daten
And
und das
now we
ermöglicht
see that
Verbessern.
agile
Und da
processes are
kommt jetzt
further
auch wieder
developed,
Technologie
learning
ins
from
Spiel.
the
Also da ist es
findings.
ja durchaus, gibt
Yes,
es
and technology comes
entsprechende,
to play again.
ohne jetzt irgendwelche Namen zu nennen, es gibt Plattformen
Without
sozusagen, wo du
saying any
deine
names, but there
Customer
are
Journey, deine
platforms
Ist-Journey drin mappen kannst, dann mit Konnektoren da
where you
draußen an
can map your
Feedbackquellen
customer
anbinden
journey.
kannst und hast
We
gleich
have
am Ampelsystem, wo
connectors
grün,
that you
gelb, wo
can
irgendwo
connect to
Probleme
feedback
sind in deiner
loops, and
Customer
then you've
Journey,
got
die du
a
in ein
traffic
System
light
geben kannst,
system
woraus du
that
dann immer wieder
identifies
Maßnahmen
problems
ableiten
along the
kannst.
customer journey,
So,
green,
also da
yellow,
gibt es ja jetzt ganz
and red.
unterschiedlichste
And this can
Ansätze,
lead
auch
you
viel
to measures you
jetzt im
can
letzten
take.
halben Jahr, was sich
There
da
are many
natürlich mit
different
der Benutzung
approaches in
von
the last 6 months.
KI-Systemen oder der Anbindung von
A lot
irgendwelchen
happened with the support
Modellen
of
dahinter
AI
sozusagen nochmal einen
systems.
Ticken weiterentwickelt hat, dass da eine automatische
And there was
Textanalyse
another
von
further development,
Kundenfeedback, eine Sentiment-Analyse von
automatic
Kundenfeedback
text
passiert,
analysis,
was dir dann
feedback of the
sozusagen
customer
vorne
sentiment.
drin
This
einen
happens
Erkenntnisstand
automatically.
gibt, den wir einfach vor einem Jahr noch nicht hatten. So,
And
und
this
jetzt
gives
können wir
you
das
some
natürlich
new
wiederum,
insights, and this didn't
jetzt kommt
exist a
der
year
nächste
ago.
Schritt,
And of course,
wie
then
können wir
there's
jetzt
another
im
step,
nächsten Schritt eventuell noch gefilterte
and that is
Erkenntnisse
how,
oder
in the
die
next
aus den
step, how
Erkenntnissen
can
gefilterte Informationen in
we
den Generierungsprozess
use the information that we
der
filtered
nächsten
out of these
Generation der Contents,
findings,
die wir wieder
how
ausspielen, die
can we
wir für die
use
nächsten
it
Kunden
to
bereitstellen, wiederum einfließen, um diesen
develop
Zirkel dann zu
future
schließen. Also da,
content
glaube ich, das ist jetzt
that we
der
want to
nächste
provide
Schritt,
to
wo wir
our
noch hinkommen.
customers. And with that, we want to go full circle. That is the
Björn,
next
mit
step
Blick
we
auf
have to
die Uhr,
take.
unsere Simultanübersetzer haben
Björn,
immer so ein bisschen
our
zeitliches Limit, weil
time
es
is
sehr
always
anstrengend ist,
over
wenn man so live arbeitet.
because
Man muss sich
our
immer
simultaneous
setzen.
interpreters
Aber
have
lass
a
mich noch
time
eine
limit
Frage stellen,
because
die jetzt wieder deine
there's a
Rolle
limit
als
to the time we
Moderator
can
aufzeigt.
concentrate.
Wenn du jetzt
But
in
let
die
me
nächste
ask one
Zukunft schaust, die
more
nächsten 2, 3
question
Ausgaben
regarding
eurer
your task
Shift to X
as in your work
beispielsweise,
as a
Ich bin nicht
moderator.
ersetzbar als
Shift to
Moderator durch
CX, the
irgendeine Maschine.
next future.
So,
I
ich
cannot be
hänge einfach nur
replaced
noch AX
by a
Semantics
machine.
hinten dran und die meinen Job
Genau,
machen.
dann ist alles gut. Ja.
No, we just need
Saim,
to use AX
was
semantics
hast du
and
in deinem
then everything will be
Themenradar
automatic.
drin? Worauf müssen wir die nächsten Wochen und
No,
Monate auch so ein
regarding your
bisschen
radar
achten?
of
Also ich will so ein
topics
bisschen
in the
klauen bei
next
dir, was
few
du so
weeks
gerade
and
im Blick
months, what
hast
do
an
we need
Entwicklungen, an
to
Themen,
pay
an
attention to?
Firmen,
I
an
want to
Personen.
steal a little bit
Was
of
beschäftigt
your
dich gerade und was wird in eurer Agenda
of the
stattfinden?
topics.
Auch im Hinblick auf eine
What
mögliche
are
Anmeldung am
you looking at?
8. 9.
What are you
Konferenz.
doing also
Was passiert in der
regarding
nächsten
your
Zeit? Was sind
future
deine Themen?
conference in November? What are you going to do
Naja,
in the near future?
also es ist auch da nichts wirklich Neues. Also erstmal die Durchdringung dessen, was wir
Well,
heute
nothing
hier
new,
besprochen
basically.
haben, dass die Idee
Learning
der Customer Journey
fully
als
what we've been talking
kontinuierlichen
about today, the idea of a customer journey as a
Verbesserungsprozess irgendwie
continuous
in einem
improvement
Managementprozess zu
process,
verorten im Unternehmen. Also das ist eigentlich das, wo wir eigentlich schon seit 2
to
Jahren dran diskutieren
establish it
und
as a
immer weiter
management
diskutieren.
process
Da
in the
gibt es natürlich
company. This
jetzt
is something we've been
immer
discussing
wieder
for 2
Erfahrungswerte
years,
aus einzelnen Projekten, die zeigen, wo man
and
schon
we
was
have
gelernt hat,
experience
etc.
coming
Und
from
sowas
different
diskutieren wir
projects
jetzt
that
da immer wieder.
show where
Dann der zweite
things
Punkt
were
ist
learned, and this is
natürlich
what we are
die
discussing time and time
Verwerfungen,
again.
die jetzt
And then
durch
there's
den
another
Einsatz
point,
durch entsprechende
and
KI-Lösungen
these
in
are
den
the
einzelnen Stufen dort
distortions
entstehen.
that
Ja, also
are happening in
wo
the
wir
different
dann
steps
zum
because
Beispiel,
of
wie ich
AI
gesagt habe, eine
solutions.
automatische
As I said
Feedback-Analyse,
before,
Kundenfeedback-Analyse
an
haben und da
automatic
einfach
feedback
aus
analysis, customer feedback
unstrukturierten
analysis is
Daten
something that can be installed, and
bessere
unstructured
Bewertungen
data
ableiten können.
can be
Also bisher haben
used
wir halt irgendwie
to come
NPS-Scores
up
ermittelt.
with
Wir wissen
better
alle, dass NPS
evaluations. So far,
ziemlich
we
ungenau ist
evaluated the
oder
NPS scores. We all
fehlerbehaftet
know
ist, je
that
nachdem,
it's
wie
not
man,
very
also
precise.
NPS gibt ja
That
irgendwie so
leads
eine
to
klassische
errors. MPS
Zufriedenheitsbefragung,
is
wo es um
the traditional
Weiterempfehlungsaspekte
satisfaction
geht und je
survey. This
nachdem,
is
wo du
about
mich quasi
recommendation
irgendwie
aspects,
erwischt, empfehle ich,
the
also bewerte
NPS.
ich
And
diese
depending on
Weiterempfehlung sehr
where I
unterschiedlich.
am,
Also komme ich gerade aus einem
I'm
schlechten Prozess
going to
und
give a
gebe
very
gar
different
nicht Weiterempfehlung,
assessment. If I
obwohl ich
come out
eigentlich
of a
vielleicht
bad
zufrieden bin mit
process, I'm not going to
dem Produkt an
recommend,
sich, aber der Prozess
although
hat nicht
I'm
funktioniert.
happy
So,
with the product as
wenn
such,
wir
but the
dann
process
natürlich
didn't work.
unstrukturierte Informationen für das
So
Problem
this
über den
means
Prozess
if we use non-structured information, if we can assess it with a text analysis, for instance, automatically, we'll have many different pieces of information, much more information we can filter out instead of just using the NPS score. So the question is, how can we use the AI technology and other technological support to optimize the customer journey management process? And we're already seeing that because of AI, things are changing again. We'll have to rethink. We'll have to get to a technologically supported further development of the process, and this is what we're working on. And then at Shift CX, we also have other topics like marketing automation, optimization, individual aspects. How can I optimize our email marketing? How can I optimize the chatbot design? And there are individual solutions about how to interact with our customers. Very nice. Thank you very much for giving us that overview. Thank you very much for visiting us with your impulse. Thank you very much for giving us insights into your work coming from various decades of experience. We're not getting younger. Eike, thank you very much. Thank you to Simultando for the translation. We just want to give you the results of the survey. Yes. Let's have a look at the results of the survey. It sounded as if you were already concluding the meetup. Sorry. Not that many people participated today, but still there is a clear majority saying that they update their product descriptions if the product data change. And then there is the topic of error in the product text. Regarding the other points, there was no assessment. So it's really important that Björn informs people. It shows once more that we're still looking toward the inside. We change content if we have news. We don't change the content because it might mean something different for the customer. This is the most beautiful concluding remark we might have. We are still dealing with ourselves and we need to take the customer's perspective. Thanks to all the parties involved, each other again on the occasion of the Shift CX on 8th and 9th November. Stay tuned and see you soon. Ciao.
Ciao. Vielen Dank.